Good afternoon and welcome to We Believe Digital Newsbreak here at the We Believe Digital Studios in downtown Jackson, Mississippi. So glad that you're with us today. Got a 30-minute show for you. And hang on just 1 minute. We had a camera drop offline. And now we're back. So we're just marching through these stories. Going to start at the local level. You know, those three teenagers who escaped from the Hanley Young Patton Youth Detention Center for the second time escaped are now in custody, arrested by Adams County sheriffs. Sheriff said Natchez police received a tip around 7:30 in the morning this morning that the suspect's vehicle was on Brenham Avenue. Said the teens were in an abandoned home, which was surrounded by law enforcement. The suspects, a 16-year-old Robert Smith, 17-year-old Tayshawn Holmes, and 15-year-old Jashawn Jones, ran away and tried to enter a home on Gayosa Avenue. The homeowner fired shots at the teens. Two teens fled and were captured by authorities, and one teen hid under a car and was arrested by police. And of course, now with all that going on, you know they're going to face additional charges. So not good decision making. Another story out of Jackson Hinds County from WLBT. As Jackson City Attorney Katoria Martin bows out, she's being credited for helping secure a major settlement from the insurance provider Zurich American Insurance. On Thursday, Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba announced that the city would receive $10.3+ million from the company in the next 30 days, funds that he says should have been received years ago to help make repairs following a major hailstorm. We have been in deep discussions as to how this money will be applied. I'm sure that the City Council will have their view on it, but I want to be clear that this comes at the hands of the City Attorney's Office. This comes under the leadership of Ms. Katoria Martin. You know, today is just another day, and a day that the legislature is in session here in Mississippi. But another day that the Republican majority, trifecta, overall has everything, has everything pinned down. The Democrats don't need to come in if they don't want to for the votes. It's so overwhelming. But another day where they don't want to hold any hearings on this welfare scandal that's rocked this state for the last 6 years. Upwards of $100 million of federal funds stolen by state officials, state leaders, state elected officials and their appointees, all Republican, to do with what they wanted to do. But we only got that money from the feds, just like every other state, to provide specifically for the poorest of the poor. And yet these people pilfer that money, steal that money, misspend that money, whichever word you choose. But they want no accountability and don't want to get their names involved in it. So they don't hold any hearings whatsoever. So I'm not sure how that's really serving the people. If the taxpayers, if the voters are okay with them doing that, $100 million of other people's money in our Christian-centered state, if they're okay with people doing that and not holding any hearings, well, I guess there are not going to be any hearings, no accountability, just lawlessness without accountability. So another day that it goes by without being. So nobody has the wherewithal, the leadership to say, no, this is terribly wrong. And we, the legislature, we, the law writers, we, the ones that supposedly decide how money is spent in this state, we're going to hold hearings on it. But they won't do that. What does that tell you about their character? Just the day after he's inaugurated for, thankfully, his final 4 years as governor, Governor Tate Reeves has rejected federal funds for a summer EBT program for kids when they're out of school. Can't get no breakfast at school, can't get no lunch at school during the summer. This would be $40 per child, up to $120 maximum for a family during the summer months. We're talking about 2.5 months. And again, paid for completely by the feds, but the governor rejects that because he says he don't want to be make us more of a welfare state. Children going hungry. The governor doesn't have any problem accepting, the pool of money that comes into Mississippi every year, what you could call income or revenues. Guess what percentage of that comes directly from the federal government? Over 47%. Nearly half of Mississippi's kitty, if you will, is paid for by the feds. We are the second highest debtor state in the nation. Only one other state takes more money from the feds than we do. For every dollar that Mississippians pay in income tax, $2.53 of that comes back to Mississippi. How's that for a deal? Governor got no problem taking that money now, does he? But he doesn't want to give $40 a child for 2.5 months when they're out of school to help supplement their food and their overall well-being in the poorest state in the country. I understand Republican, Democrat, Independent, but somewhere in there has to be basic right and wrong. And Mississippi always making the wrong decision, the selfish decision, the elitist decision, where they're taking good care of their own selves, but not everybody else, not all Mississippians. The day after Mississippi health officials told residents in the state's capital and next door, Pearl, that dangerous bacteria could be in their tap water, a new round of tests found that the same tests from the same locations found that it did not have the E. coli that in the Jackson water supply. I didn't see anything about the Pearl water supply, but the Jackson, the day after, it came up as no E. coli. So the water appears safe. Ted Hennepin, Jackson's interim water manager, said repeat samples taken from the city's water system tested negative for E. coli. The new round of results, which were collected from the same locations where state officials reported positive results the day before, show the previous test was a false positive. At a Thursday news conference yesterday, Hennepin said state officials refused to validate the lab results before issuing the boil water notice. How about that? So they jumped the gun, and they jumped the gun on Jackson that suffered so much with this, getting people all worried up over again. And again, in the first report I saw Pearl was involved, but I don't see anything in this recent reporting about Pearl, so I don't know how that worked out. A prisoner at Walnut Grove Correctional Facility, a state prison once deemed among the worst for sexual misconduct in the nation, has pledged to go on another hunger strike if the Mississippi Department of Corrections fails to investigate his allegations that a guard inappropriately touched him during a pat-down. The status of Garnett Hughes' 3-month-old complaint is unclear, as he's received conflicting information from prison staff, and MDOC wouldn't comment. All they would say is the agency is handling this matter in accordance with our policy and procedures. Now, I don't have a picture to show you now, but of course you know that was a black man. You just know that was a black man. I saw the picture. leaders of a recently formed organization hope they can finally convince a new slate of state lawmakers to restore a process for Mississippians to bypass politicians at the Capitol and place initiatives on a statewide ballot for consideration. Ballot initiative. The bipartisan group of political and business leaders from across the state created Ballot Access Mississippi, or BAM, Ballot Access Mississippi, to provide an outlet for voters to advocate the state legislature to reinstate the initiative. It's one of those things that everybody is for, but it's not the main focus of anyone right now, said Spence Flatgard, the chairman of the organization. We saw BAM as a way to be helpful. The Mississippi Constitution explicitly gives citizens the right to place measures on a statewide ballot for consideration, but the Mississippi Supreme Court in 2021 struck down the state's initiative process because of a technicality over the number of state congressional districts. The leaders of the Capitol's 2 legislative chambers recently told reporters they support legislation to restore the initiative. So I got one more story for you before we cut out for our break, and then we'll go into national and world news, and that is Wild Card Weekend. So the fun starts tomorrow. Some people say it's the best weekend of football in the whole year, but it starts tomorrow with the Cleveland Browns at the Texans. It's 3 p.m. followed by the Miami Dolphins at the Kansas City Chiefs. That Arrowhead Stadium, in Kansas City, they say very tough to win there, when you're a visitor. So the Dolphins will give that a try, and before them at 3 o'clock, the Browns at the Texans. And then the next day, on Sunday, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. And all kinds of weather going on, so that could be a nightmare up there. That's at noon on Sunday. Followed by Green Bay at the Dallas Cowboys at 3:30, and then the Rams at Detroit at 7:15 on Sunday evening. Then on Monday you have one game scheduled, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles against those Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's at 7:15 on Monday night. So that's your Wild Card Weekend coming right at you starting tomorrow. So let's go ahead and dip out for a couple of commercials. We'll be right back with you.
Are you dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, Keepers of the Knowledge for People Who Speak the Truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
And welcome back to We Believe Digital Studios. For this news program, we're jumping into the weather. Got a whole lot of weather coming our way, really across the whole country. An intense blast of cold weather, what they call a bomb cyclone, is expected across the United States into the weekend and early next week. Every state across the lower 48 has some form of weather warning today, with high wind alert affecting 145 million people and winter storm warnings effective for 56 million people. This marks the first significant Arctic outbreak of the winter and is expected to move from the northern Rockies and the plains farther south and east through the Midwest. The National Weather Service warned that temperatures would turn dangerously cold by tomorrow morning. Temperatures in the minus 20s, minus 30s, and as low as minus 40s are forecast for the northern plains. Some areas could see low records broken over the weekend and into next week. Temperatures for the first in the nation Iowa caucuses on Monday are set to be the coldest in the contest's modern history, with forecast highs around 0 degrees in Des Moines on Monday, Martin Luther King Day. So we got to think smart about this weather, take precautions, leave that tap dripping, open up those cabinets around the pipes, keep the temperature high enough, and use extreme caution. We talked to you about the takedown of Claudine Gay, the first black woman president of Harvard University. And this hedge fund billionaire, Bill Ackman, who was in on that coordinated takedown of Dr. Gay, who recently fought this high-profile battle against Harvard, said Friday he's starting an activist organization to fight anti-Semitism and reform higher education. It's going to be a think and do tank. It's going to be an activist, Ackman said in an interview. In an interview with CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin on Squawk Box. I'm standing up an organization very shortly to focus on precisely what's going on. We're going to study these issues. We're going to come up with solutions to problems, and we're going to implement. This guy is the CEO of Pershing Square Capital, one of the loudest critics of Harvard, his alma mater, as well as the University of Pennsylvania and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, after the Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel, charging their presidents with not taking a strong stance against anti-Semitism on campus. So you got a really big, wealthy person that has access to lots of other wealthy people that's going to take a stand and make these college campuses do what they want and make them lean in for the causes that they believe in, disregarding probably all the rest. Interesting. We'll see how that turns out. The Federal Aviation Administration will increase its oversight of Boeing production and manufacturing. The agency said Friday, today, one day after announcing it had opened an investigation. The FAA says it will audit Boeing's 737 9 MAX production line and its suppliers to evaluate Boeing's compliance with its approved quality procedures. The results of the initial audit will determine whether additional audits are needed. It is time to re-examine the delegation of authority and assess any associated safety risks, according to FAA Administrator Mike Whitaker. In another aviation-related story, a Navy helicopter on a training mission in California crashed into the water near San Diego on yesterday, and all 6 people aboard were rescued and brought ashore. It was an MH-60, what's referred to as a Seahawk helicopter from Helicopter Maritime Strike Squadron 41, went into San Diego Bay during routine training ops about 6:40 p.m. According to Naval Air Station North Island spokesperson Commander Beth Teach. There were, again, 6 crew members on board, and a safety boat that was on scene brought all to shore. Pardon me. The Justice Department plans to seek the death penalty for the white gunman who killed 10 people and injured 3 in a racist shooting in Buffalo, New York, at that Tops grocery store we all remember. In a court filing Friday, the DOJ listed several reasons it believes the death penalty is warranted, including the impact the May 14, 2022 shooting had on the victims and survivors. It also stated that the shooter, Payton, Payton, Gendron, Gendron, intentionally killed Roberta Drury, Pearlie Young, Hayward Patterson, Ruth Whitfield, Celestine Cheney, Aaron Salter Jr., Andre McNeil, Margus Morrison, Catherine Massey, and Geraldine Talley at the Tops Friendly Market. He was indicted in 2022 on 27 federal counts, including murder, discharging a firearm, and hate crimes. This move by the DOJ would be the first for President Biden's administration. The governor of New York weighed in. Again, this happened in Buffalo. Governor Kathy Hochul said she agrees with the decision. This complies with the DOJ requirements for what constitutes a death penalty offense. She said the community is reeling from the atrocity of 10 innocent people who were simply going around shopping and were targeted simply because of the color of their skin. So I support the Department of Justice, she said. Gendron, 20, was dressed in tactical gear when he unleashed a fury of gunfire in the parking lot of the grocery store, authorities said. He had streamed the attack on the social media platform Twitch. In our last few minutes, try and get to you some world news and really focused on the Israel-Hamas war and the goings-on in the critically important Red Sea in terms of shipping. So again, from NBC News, the U.S. and British military has launched strikes against Houthi rebels in Yemen after weeks of attacks targeting international shipping in the Red Sea that militants say are aimed at backing Hamas. The Houthis, who control much of Yemen, have vowed retaliation, raising the risk of broader regional conflict with the Iran-backed groups, and there's several of them, 3 or 4. The Houthis are just one of them. Israel announced it had struck a deal with Hamas to deliver medicine to hostages being held in Gaza. The arrangement was made with the help of Qatari officials, the Prime Minister's office announced, and medication will be distributed in the coming days. Israel has defended itself at the United Nations top court after South Africa presented its case that the war in Gaza amounts to genocide against Palestinians, an accusation Israel has dismissed as atrocious and preposterous. South Africa is asking the International Court of Justice to order an immediate halt to the war, though the decision will likely take weeks. Atrocious and preposterous. That's what Hamas did to Israel on October 7th. And killed, which appears the number is 1,200 Israelis, innocent Israelis. They started at a music concert, for God's sakes. Then they took 240 hostages. But in retaliation now, more than 23,700 people have been killed in Gaza since the war began. More than 60,000 have been injured, and thousands more are missing and presumed dead. That's also atrocious and preposterous. Israeli military officials say at least 186 soldiers have been killed during the country's ground invasion of Gaza, which came after, like we've said, 1,200 people killed and 240 hostages were seized. Multi-pronged attacks by Hamas on October 7th. But here we are now approaching 100 days, and the retaliation is far more than 1,200 people. It's nearly 24,000 and counting. The United States and Britain launched military strikes against the Houthi rebels in Yemen on yesterday after weeks of mounting attacks by the Iran-backed militant group in the Red Sea. The strikes carried out from land and sea threatened an expansion of the conflict in the Middle East beyond Israel's war in Gaza, an escalation the Biden administration and its allies have been working to avoid. The Houthis, who say their action is aimed at supporting Hamas, vowed retaliation for the attacks. They said had killed at least 5 fighters at multiple sites held by the rebels. The U.S. and U.K. strikes targeted these multiple, it looks like 16 different locations, 60 targets at 16 locations with over 100 precision-guided munitions of various types. Tomahawk missiles fired from Navy ships, missiles fired from Air Force. Strikes were against command and control nodes, munitions depots, launching systems, production facilities, and air defense radar systems, according to the U.S. Air Force's Central Command. So that does it for the news break for today. And we thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you next Wednesday. This is a long weekend with for a lot of people anyway, with the Martin Luther King holiday on Monday. Hope you're able to enjoy a 3-day weekend, taking good care of yourselves and each other, and maybe find a way to do a little service in the community, some sort of service in your community on Monday. So we'll see you back next Wednesday. Take good care.